John Billingsley, Phil Phlox, Hollywood Food Coalition here. Guess what? Trek Talks 2. It's happening. You asked for it. You got it. January 14, 8 hours of premium Star Trek entertainment, amazing guests, mad cappery, insightful social commentary, musical interludes. Support HoFoCo. Check us out at hofoco.org, helping people in need for almost 40 years. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, on the 14th of January at trektalks.net. Live long and mark your calendars. Again, trektalks.net.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the SyFy Sistas podcast, where we give you our point of view. We are proud members of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and we are here today with a fantastic show. As usual, super duper excited because we've got a fabulous guest for you. But before we get to our guest, I want to say I'm joined today by my sisters, Yvette Blackman-Ton.
Hello.
Sabrina Wood.
Whoop, whoop.
Fran T.
What's happening?
And me, Tamia. So we have a man with us that honestly, we're kind of sitting here pretty tickled. Sabrina is like jumping up and down because this is her man. Because if you've watched Star Trek recently, after TOS, then you've seen this man's work. And we love him to pieces. He has directed more Star Trek than any other human being. And he's here to join us today about a discussion on directors. He is the one and only Mr. David Livingston. Thank you for joining us.
Yay! Woo, woo. Yay!
Thank you for having me.
We're super excited that you're here. I'm going to kick off the show, give it to Sabrina. Go ahead. She's biting.
I know. She's like, I'm just giving this to Sabrina. Hi, everybody. Yes, I am really excited about this. David, we met you out in Las Vegas for the first time, but I have been a fan forever. We've all been fans. We know this is DS9 month as far as we're concerned, DS9 year even, so we definitely wanted to have you on the show. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about so much with you, and we talked about a little bit at the Vegas party for the Hollywood Food Coalition, which we're going to talk about in a second, is this whole idea of the director and training program that Star Trek developed. And I want to get into that with you. But first, let's talk about the Hollywood Food Coalition, because we're really excited about that coming up.
Yeah, the Hollywood Food Coalition is a charity in the Los Angeles area that services the needs of those less privileged than us. We provide a nightly meal to those in need, as well as acting as a major food distribution center for the Los Angeles area. And last year we had a program called Trek Talks in support of the Hollywood Food Coalition, where we invited a lot of Trek celebrities to participate in a 6-hour Zoom-a-thon, of which the SyFy Sistas launched the show. And they will be back for Trek Talks 2.
Yay! Donate.
Please donate. Go to trektalks.net and join the fun. It's going to be 8 hours. We have a tremendous lineup of people. Scott Bakula is going to be there. Anson Mount, Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner, Will Wheaton. We've got a great cohort of, I'm just naming a couple of people. John Billingsley, who is on the Hollywood Food Coalition Board of Directors along with me, and is instrumental in launching Trek Talks. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody on January 14th, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you have the time, please join us. And if you can contribute, it would be great, because it goes to a very worthy cause, the Hollywood Food Coalition.
So David, how did you get involved in it, actually? I know you're on the board and John's on the board, but how did this all even come about for you personally?
In 2019, during the summer, I decided to start doing more personal photography, which I had sort of walked away from for many years. And using my iPhone exclusively, I went out and we go on walks with my wife and my dog, and all over the Los Angeles area to Santa Monica, the Hollywood area, the Hollywood Hills, and I would take a bunch of photographs. I'd come home at night and look at the photographs that I had taken, and 90% of the photos were of homeless and the unhoused. And it said something to me. It said, you are seeing something that you hadn't seen before. And I said, I have to keep exploring this so I can understand it. And I don't know if I ever understood it, but my empathy level grew exponentially. And I ultimately decided to share the photographs in exhibits. And I showed John Billingsley the initial exhibit, and he asked if I would partner with the Hollywood Food Coalition to present the exhibit. And we did 2 exhibits in early 2020, right before COVID hit. And it was very successful. People said they were very moved by it. We got a lot of contributions. And subsequent to that, John asked me to join the board, and I've been with them now for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So that was the genesis of it, is that I finally saw what was happening in front of me, and I had this need to document it, and then the need to share it with the public.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And I understand that, just to say that when we did the telethon last year, and I know I'm speaking for all the sisters, and I know they say the same thing, it was something that I had felt like I'd really done something I was so proud of, just that little bit that we did and what was happening. And I know what you're saying about, you see something in front of you. I mean, the live clips that everybody was doing, and you say, oh yeah, we're going to do this thing, we're going to raise some money. But when you were watching it and seeing what people were going through, it was really moving. And I really felt like, wow, what am I doing by doing nothing? I mean, okay, we're going to do this 15-minute thing, and we got to do more. And that's how I kept feeling. And I understand, exactly how you feel, like that empathy coming through. And I just really, I'm really happy to be a part of it. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, and you said it quite eloquently. We have one of the panels that we have is something called Trektivism, which is about taking what we've all learned from what Gene Roddenberry initiated about mankind coming out on the positive end of everything, and how do we apply that to our own lives? And that was sort of the focus of Trek Talks 1, and we'll be on Trek Talks 2. And focusing on Trektivism, it's like, how do we in our personal lives apply the precepts and the concepts of Star Trek to our own lives, and give back to the community the gift that we've been given of Star Trek. Because what else are we going to do?
Right.
It's sort of
the true believers. That's what
true believers, and it's a call to action. So we are hoping to inspire people to forget about the money and the contributions, but do something.
Something.
The first thing you have to do is show up. Okay, show up and do something in your community. If you just help one person a day, think how incredible that will be. So that's why Trek Talks was so fulfilling, because I think because of the funds we raised and the people we reached, hopefully we inspired a lot of people to go out and take personal action, as well as whatever contributions they could make.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for getting us involved in it. We really appreciate it.
Well, no, thank you for doing it. You started the show off with a bang, and the energy level and it was great. And I know this time around, I don't want to spoiler alert. I'm not going to say what's going to be happening, but you have a great panel that will be presented on Trek Talks 2. So everybody, please attend.
Okay. All right. So now I really want to get into this director thing, because we were talking at the party, and I said I just asked you about my idea for a podcast. And I said I really want to talk about the cast members who directed, and you said, "Oh well, I'm gonna have to help you with that." I said, "Yes, thank you," because I don't even know how to approach this whole thing. But tell me a little bit about how you started. I know you started as a unit manager, so you just came in right from film school, or how did you get on Star Trek at all?
Well, I didn't come in from film school. I did go to USC Film School, but I started off in the business as a gopher, go for this, go for that, and worked my way up and finally into the Directors Guild as a unit production manager, where I was doing pilots and movies of the week. And I interviewed in 1987 for this pilot at Paramount, where they were going to relaunch the Star Trek franchise. And I interviewed for the job, and I got the job as unit production manager. I was going to leave the show after the pilot at Christmas because I didn't want to do episodic television, which is a real grind.
Wow.
So I told the producers I was going to leave, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They said, "We'll make you a producer, and you don't have to be the unit manager anymore." So it was more money and less work. So
there you go.
Okay, that works.
That's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
And take that offer every day.
Exactly. And it was above the line position, so I got a better title, all those things that come with it. And so once I was as a producer, I'd sit in dailies with Rick every day, going over what other directors were doing. And Rick at one point said, "Would you like to direct for the show?" I have to go back a little bit and explain the context for that. Rick Berman is one of the most generous people I have ever met. And what he did was establish the DIT school on Star Trek. DIT stands for Director in Training. And he allowed anybody who was in front of the camera or behind the camera to go to DIT school, where they would study other directors. They'd go to editorial. They'd spend time on the set, all on their own time. They'd do scene study. They'd see movies, whatever, anything they could do to absorb what it was like to be a director. And at some point, if Rick felt enough confidence in you, he would give you a shot directing an episode. And going back to the story, I'd sit in dailies, and he saw that I was interested in the process. He knew that I'd gone to film school, and he offered me a shot, which I am forever grateful for.
I have a question. I have to start. So did he decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to do a film school on the set? Or did he see, what made him come up with this? Like, why, what was his, I know he's generous, but he just said, like, I see people asking me I want to learn how to be a director, or, I always thought it was because Jonathan Frakes wanted to learn. And I thought he then created the school after that experience. But now you're
well,
telling me
that may again, I don't know the origin, so your timeline might be more accurate. Jonathan was the first director, and I sort of remember that I thought it was I thought we were referring to it as DIT school at that point.
At that point, okay.
Yeah, but I could be wrong, because it's only 19.
So you must have gone through right after Jonathan.
No. I didn't direct for another couple of years after that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, there were a lot of other people. I think I was the 4th season of TNG. My first show was The Mind's Eye. I'm not sure I think that was 4th season.
Yeah. So was it a formalized thing? I mean, so you sort of like put your memo into Rick Berman and say, I would like to go to DIT school, and then he would come back and say, yes, you can go to DIT school. You had your little note from the principal, and you went to school.
In my case, I was so petrified about doing it. I had to go back into therapy for 6 months.
No way.
And at the end of 6 months, I had also done a lot of scene study. When you do scene study, you have to get actors to come in and do your scenes, so you can track how a scene develops and how to get the emotional content out of the scene, etc. The actors that I would bring in to do my scene studies with me privately, I would bring into casting sessions, and Rick used to try and get them parts on the show. And Rick would tease me and say, "Oh, here comes another Livingston player." So, so he knew that I was heavily invested emotionally and physically in study, even though I had directed in film school and made short films and all that stuff. I had not done anything professionally, but he saw how committed I was. And once I got through my therapy and I felt confident enough to go for it, I went to him and I said, "I'm ready." And he said, "Okay."
Wow.
That was big for me. Now, I had an inside to the guy. I mean, I had an office next to him. So many people don't have that opportunity. So I was blessed, and my gratitude is boundless because of, it's the luck of the draw. And I just happened to have an office next to the guy, and I finally took advantage of the situation.
Wow. I can't even imagine. So once you're in, how long did it last, the school? I mean, it went for a season or a couple of episodes? How long were you, like, once you were in there?
Depended on the person. As I said,
okay.
Again, I went through therapy for 6 months. So I would say mine was 6 months. And I did a lot of work during that time, analyzing other directors' work, going to editorial, talking to the editors, spending a lot of time on the set, as I said, doing the scene study, and looking at my favorite movies again and saying, what inspires me? What is my point of view? I would also one thing I did a lot of, I would take a scene that a director was going to direct that day on the set, and I would read it, and I'd say to myself, what would you do with this, David? And then I would go watch that director, and I'd say, oh, I like what I did better, or oh, I like what they did better. I have no ego. If they're doing something better, I'm going to steal it. So that was a very key educational tool to develop your chops to go in and do a scene, because when you go in and do a scene, it's a beginning, middle, and end. And it's emotional. Every scene, every movie, every whatever is life and death. So you have to infuse whatever you're doing with life and death. And if you can do that for everything you do, even though it's not literally life and death, then you're bringing emotional power to the scene. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. If the general audience reads a script, they get nothing out of it, because they don't have the capability or the ability to translate into their heads into how you make it into a scene that can be photographed. And I'm not saying that I have all the answers or anything. And you have all these tremendous technicians and actors who coalesce to help you do your quote unquote vision. But that's the gift of the director, being able to take a scene that reads on a page as a dry document and try and capture what the author and the writer's intention was for the emotional journey and development for that particular scene.
Oh, wow. So you said something a little bit back there that I wanted to ask you about. You said you watched some of your favorite films. So one of the things people say is that, they watch a Hitchcock film and they know that that's Hitchcock. Or, they say, oh, I'm going to watch I know this is a Jonathan Frakes episode when I see it. And I'm like,
every time.
Really? You know it. So is that something that you aspire to, or do you think that's a good thing that the director of the episode is putting such a stamp on it? Or you know what I'm saying? Is it?
Well, of course, yeah. It's wonderful if you can. Episodic television is tough because you don't have the time, you don't have the control. It's creatively the only. You get to direct on the set and you get your first cut, but after that, you don't have any involvement. You don't participate in the writing of the script. You don't get to make the casting decisions, even though you participate. But there is a time when you're on the set where you pick the shots you're going to do, to try and take the audience on the journey for that particular scene. Where were we? You're talking about vision. But yes, directors inspire me. In my first show, The Mind's Eye, I recreated a shot from The Manchurian Candidate, which is one of my favorite movies.
I love that movie.
I'm a huge John Frank. I'm talking about the original with John.
Original. I know. Listen.
Yeah.
We knew
Let's
which one you were talking about. The Frank Sinatra one. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, John Frankenheimer, who I got to meet once, which was a great thrill. But I did a shot that was recreating where a guy is sitting down and he gets shot and falls back over. Well, that was my homage there.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God!
And I tried to do that a couple times, other in episodes where, it's more for me. Nobody else would even probably know, but you do those to pique your own interest.
Sabrina knew.
I knew.
It's in her notes.
No, but when we talked about that episode, when we were doing our Geordie Love episode, and that was one of our favorites, Mind's Eye. We pulled that one out of there. We were like, that was one of the best. Oh my God. Yeah. And I know you were talking about you weren't happy with the ending that you had in that one. You said in another something that I read about you that was your first one. And you said that you felt that you had missed the beat at the end of that. You wish you had come in stronger. Is that still how you feel about it?
Yes. I looked at it recently and it wasn't as bad, I'll use the word, as I had originally thought. But I was really depressed. I was really depressed when I left the set that night because I was way over schedule. I was getting a lot of pressure I was supposed to do a stunt rather than something less action oriented. And I went and talked to Patrick about it. I told him what I thought we should do. And he said, yeah, that'll be okay, David. I still regret it. And when I got home that night, I said, if I ever get the chance to direct again, I'm never going to do that again. And
you never did.
I never did.
Get another shot. Keep him there till midnight. Just do it.
Power play.
Yeah. So I stuck to my guns and, you have to. It's otherwise you're not being honest to the job.
Right.
It has certain requirements, and you have a responsibility to deliver the show to the best of your ability. And if you walk away from a beat or something that you feel is critical to the drama, then you're doing a disservice not only to the show but also to yourself. So
because it's life and death.
I didn't do that again.
Seen as life and death. Life and death.
But no, it is. And you have to look at it as life and death. Everything has to be infused with that and with energy and with passion. Otherwise, why would anybody want to watch? I see a lot of movies, and some of it is just like, why did they bother doing this? And why? Where's the heart and where's the power? And yet other movies just rip me along. And those are the ones that I cherish. You brought up Hitchcock. I'm a huge Hitchcock fan.
Me too. I love Hitchcock.
What's your favorite Hitchcock movie?
Well, I've watched North by Northwest probably 100 times.
Okay.
But I think Vertigo is his masterpiece.
Okay.
It is.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah, every frame of that movie is wonderful. And the problem with audiences today is they don't have attention spans over 30 seconds. So they can't sit down and watch Vertigo. And it's too bad because it's the ultimate film about obsession, voyeurism, all kinds of these pathologies that Hitchcock had. And he just spewed them out onto the screen. His obsession with his blonde actresses and stuff. I mean, it's sick and twisted and magnificent and powerful. And Jimmy Stewart is the ultimate tragic figure. It is, and the music score by Bernard Herrmann, everything about it. It's a master. To me, it's a masterpiece. So if I had to pick one Hitchcock film that I Well, it would be North by Northwest because I love it so much. There's so many.
It's pretty cool. It's
well,
cool.
there's so many iconic scenes in it, from the cornfield scene and the Mount Rushmore and everything about it. So I get it.
What do I love about that one? I am that person that I'm that credit reader like Fran, but that Saul Bass, titles cards, when it starts with those lines coming down and then it turns into the skyscraper. I just like that.
Saul was great. I knew Saul Bass.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. He was a little guy, but boy, was he talented. He created the AT&T Bell logo as well. His main job was as a graphic designer, working for advertising firms to create corporate logos. But he designed a tremendous amount of title sequences and really made it into an art. And
yes,
I'm with you, Sabrina, that title sequence is brilliant. The lines that end up being the building and stuff. It's the perfect introduction to that movie. So
you guys don't know how many movies you've seen where the movie's starting and that is Saul Bass's work bringing you into that film. And it's like the man was an artist.
He was a genius in that regard. Absolutely. Well, he also, I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, but he supposedly helped out in the montage shower sequence in Psycho. He helped design that sequence, which I believe because it's very graphic. Yeah. Hitchcock did this incredible preparation for his films where he would storyboard everything and put it up on a wall, and he'd go out and shoot the storyboard, which allowed him the freedom to change because he had it all planned out. But that's my understanding that Saul actually participated in designing that horrific, that a lot of people stopped taking showers for a while.
You got that right.
Because of Janet Leigh. Again, the great Bernard Herrmann cue there. It's
it still scares.
But it scared the bejesus out of me as a child. Oh, that shower scene. Oh my gosh.
Hitchcock has scarred most of us.
Yes.
I don't like birds because of him.
Right. Another one. Okay. Can't stand birds.
Nope, no birds.
I have to ask Fran, how old were you when you saw it?
I was out maybe 9.
Oh dear me, that's
wow.
I think it did come out in like 63 or something like that.
Yeah. I snuck out to see it when I was 11 or 12.
I was about 9. See,
wow.
I didn't
snuck
go
out to see it. Oh my God.
Yeah, I saw it at about 9, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh!" It was the most.
I didn't see that.
And I read later on that one of the I don't know if it's or not, but I've read this in several places. One of the reasons why they shot it in black and white because they didn't want to do the red blood.
Oh.
Yeah, blood is tricky on camera, but I think I can't see that in color. I think it would have.
I cannot.
It would have been too horrifying.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Well, I don't think it would have been. Well, I mean, I think it would have lost a lot of impact. Honestly, I think the starkness of the mental space that you're in is that black and white is really one of the main reasons that you go there. I mean, it's such an effective way of drawing you into this stark world of theirs. I thought it was a perfect reflection.
To me, I'm with you 100% on that.
That's one of the first movies where, definitely. That's one of the first movies where they actually made you wait until the beginning of the movie. Back in the day, right, friend? You could just go in anytime and just see the movie any place. You'd see the last half and then you just see the first half. Now you got the whole movie. But they made you wait. If you came in less, anything after 5 minutes, you could not be seated. And everybody said, "Oh my God, what is going on?" That was Psycho. That was the first movie to do that. So anyway, I wanted to know how much.
Let me just say one more thing on Psycho because I think
absolutely
it's interesting because I'm such a you can spend $500 million making a movie, but Hitchcock shot that movie in a couple of weeks with the television crew from the Alfred Hitchcock Hour.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and it was boom, done. It was shot on the back lot of Universal. The house is still up on a hill there.
Yeah.
So it shows you that if you have a strong premise, you have a great script, you have a great director and a great cast, it doesn't matter whether you spend $1 or $100 million. You gotta have something at the core of it. And
You do.
okay, I'm done.
That's really fascinating, though. I never knew that.
Yeah.
But
I did not know that either. I used to love that Alfred Hitchcock TV show too. I watched
it
that when I was
still
a kid.
comes on. It comes every night on Me TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much time did you have to prepare for a Star Trek episode? So you get a script. You can't even pick. You just get it assigned to you, right?
Correct. You're the pick of the week and the victim of the week. So directors have scripts are not assigned to directors. It's just the luck of the draw. And you have a 7-day prep.
Oh,
At least that's what Star Trek was. Television has changed tremendously in the last decade, but traditionally episodic television is 7 days of prep and either 7 or 8 days of shooting, depending on the complexity of the episode.
the 26 episodes that you were doing back in those days. 26.
Yeah, it was a grind. We look back on it and go, how the heck did we do that? I don't even know. Still can't believe the writers were able to keep up with that, because how do you churn out something like that? It's
every week.
It's pretty phenomenal. Ultimately it's easy to shoot it. Just give us the script and we'll do it. And we'll spend, 12, 14, 16 hours a day doing them, but we'll get them done. But to come up with that kernel of an idea and then go into a room with a bunch of other writers and trying to figure out what to do and then have somebody write it. I am a great supporter of writers. In television, writers are king. The showrunners are the executive producers and their writers. Director, it's not a director's medium.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, but television is a writer's medium.
Television is a writer's medium. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you have a writer's credit too on Star Trek. You wrote one episode.
Well, I wrote again. Ira Bear. I pitched a story, which Quark is a business leader. He does something. I forgot even what I pitched in my story, and the B story was Jake teaching Nog how to read.
It's the Nagus, isn't it?
That's the Nagus. And they bought the story based on that premise about Nog being taught to read by Jake.
So the B plot sold it.
That was the B plot. That's what they bought. But they couldn't, and just the story. I didn't write the script. What happened was I go to the pitch, I go to the story meeting where they have a big board where they write down the beats of the story and they go through what the script is going to be. And everybody was asking one another, what are we going to do for the A story? David had this idea for a Quark being a businessman kind of deal, but it doesn't really work. So what are we going to do? And Michael Piller raised his hand and went, let's do The Godfather.
Oh!
And everybody went, yeah, let's do The Godfather. And Michael turned to Ira and pointed at him and said, Ira, write The Godfather over the weekend. that Monday, they hand me The Godfather.
Wow.
And we shot The Godfather. We did it.
Sure
we did the opening scene as an homage to the Godfather. Anybody who's seen the episode, hopefully they get it. But Ira, when it came to the directors or to the Writers Guild credits, because they have to go through the Writers Guild for approval and arbitration, possibly, he graciously gave me story credit. He didn't need to. I was a member of staff. The Writers Guild does not look kindly on members of this production staff writing for the shows because they think it's a little iffy. Mm-hmm. But Ira did do that for me, and again, I'm grateful to him for that. It was very generous of him.
Well, I love that the basis for that was that scene with Jake and Nog, today being Aaron's birthday. I just, when you said that, I was like, oh, what? That's perfect, because when we talk about when Sirach Lofton and Aaron, when he was alive, when they talk about their friendship, they always talk about that scene, that one in the stem boats, but they always talk about that scene. So I just wanted to bring that up, being Aaron's birthday today.
Yeah. Aaron was a lovely, lovely man. And he was so generous as an actor, and he would do anything for you. And I do remember those scenes because I shot several of them, at least a couple of them up on the second level of the promenade where they're sitting there talking about life and whatever, and watching the women move up and down the promenade. Yeah, they were great together, and Aaron was. I remember the episode where Worf and Dax get married.
Yes.
Well, cordially invited.
Yeah, classic.
Exactly. In the scene, there's a dance after they get married. You're laughing, and what you're doing right now is perfect. That's exactly the reaction. Because Aaron came up to me and said, "David, I don't know how to dance. What dance am I supposed to do?" And I said, "Aaron, you're a Ferengi. Figure it out."
Figure it out.
I said, "Whatever you come up with is going to be gold." And that whole thing that he did, and the way that Terry Farrell answered him is priceless.
Terry jumped right in.
An absolute classic.
That was all Aaron. Totally Aaron. I had nothing to do with it. All I did was shoot it, and hopefully I didn't ruin any takes by laughing. But all of your reaction was how genuine and how sweet and wonderful, and how Ferengi and yet how human. Ferengi's, of all the characters on the history of Star Trek, who are the most human characters in the Star Trek universe?
Definitely the Ferengi.
Ferengi.
Absolutely.
The Ferengis are us.
Yep, definitely.
They're us.
Yeah.
They're us.
Prophet.
Human.
Yeah. Give me that gold plate platinum or whatever it's called.
That's right.
Beer.
I am really sorry that people are only listening because you just saw like SyFy Sistas doing the Ferengi dance here. Oh, God. So I did want to ask you about, of course, you are the director of one of the most loved episodes, The Visitor. And now that is one that, every scene is life and death. Some of the most amazing.
Literally in that one. I had gone freelance. I'd left my producing job, and I came back. Rick brought me back as a guest director, and I got The Visitor in my hand, and I read it. I remember sitting at the desk reading it, and after I finished, I was panic stricken because I said, "This isn't Star Trek. What am I supposed to do with this? It's just a bunch of talk, and I don't know what to do." And I went to Steve Oster, who had taken my job as the supervising producer on Deep Space Nine. I said, "Steve, I don't know what to do with this. This isn't Star Trek. This is going to end my directing career. I have no clue." He said, "David, listen to me. Go home and read the script again, please, because you are not getting it." So I went home and I read the script again, and I looked over at my son, who was about 11 or 12 at the time. And I said, "Oh, okay, I get it." And it really was an epiphany for me, because I had found what other people might have seen immediately in it, but I found the premise. I found that it was a story about familial love, about a father's love for his son, and that's all that mattered. In the whole show, the only thing that I had to keep remembering was that a son is sacrificing his own life for his father. And that will drive every scene. And every scene does that. So again, when you direct, you have to sometimes you have to make up the premise if the script is so bad. But this script was ultimately brilliant. And thanks to Michael Taylor, who wrote the original script, and Renee Echeverria, who came back in and did a polish and a rewrite on it. And Michael will even admit this, brought in the heart, a substantial amount of heart into the script. And ultimately, I look at it as a gift. I was given a gift of this episode, and my main thought was, just don't mess it up, David. And the way that I didn't mess it up was to get out of the way of it.
Mhm.
What I did was I let the actors act, and I tried to film it as simply as possible and didn't get in the way, and just let everything play. My clock runs at about twice the speed of everybody else's. And in that episode, I said, David, you can't do that. You can't rush them. You gotta let it play. You gotta just let the actors deliver the show. And as I said, my job was to stay out of the way. And my biggest contribution to the show was making sure that Tony Todd didn't cry after every take, because he was so invested. And I said, Tony, you can't cry out after every take, because you got to save a little bit. But he and I subsequently found out that he was trashed after every night he'd go home, and after the show he was trashed. He had to go into a recuperative process because it was so emotionally draining. I didn't, being the insensitive oaf that I am, I didn't realize that. I was very nurturing to him, but I had no idea the service and the I guess the emotional trauma that he was going through for that performance. And it's on the screen. That's
it is.
That's magical about Tony. Every time I see him, he used to live close to me, but he moved to Marina Del Rey or something. And I don't see him as often now, but whenever we do see each other, it's nothing but hugs and remembering something that was a very special experience for both of us, as well as the rest of the cast. And I guess the proof is in the pudding, because so many people say it's not only one of their favorite Star Trek episodes or DS9 episodes. A lot of people say it's their favorite of all, and I'm just blown away by that. And it isn't Star Trek. It's something more than that. It's a story about the human condition and about heart and about love. And it just happens to have a science fiction frame around it. But it could have been any other entity or any other show. If it had that core, I think it would have the same effect because of the love of a son for his father.
Yeah, I read in the Companions that Tony Todd, I think it was an aunt or somebody who had a hand in his upbringing, had passed away during that time, and that was part of what was on screen also. So yeah.
I think
I heard most of that, Fran, but I think I did. I have heard that. Sorry, Sabrina. No. I understand that happened to Tony during the course of the show, and he'd have to come in, and then he'd have to sit through so much makeup because he had to go through this aging process. So he'd have to be in there sitting in the chair for 2 or 3 hours in the morning as well. So not only was he going through all this personal emotional crisis, having to deal with the emotional context of the script, but then not getting any sleep. And what he did was, as an actor, he just summoned up whatever that essence of his, which is more than just as an actor, whatever that essence is that he was able to bring out was extraordinary. And again, it's on the screen for us all to appreciate. So we appreciate the show, we appreciate the effect it has on us dramatically, but I appreciate the man for what he sacrificed and delivered for the show.
I do the ugly cry. Whenever I look at that episode.
I hadn't seen the show in 20 years.
Really?
More than 20 years, 20, maybe whatever, crazy, 25, because I had to get ready on Trek Talks, we did a whole panel on The Visitor, and I hadn't seen it. And I got teary-eyed at the end, I have to admit. And I'm a pretty hard sell. But it was great to be able to, because I didn't even see myself having directed it at that point, because I was so detached from it. I just sat back and watched it as a piece of television, and I was very, very moved by it.
Yeah, that
I
ending
have to
always
say,
gets
it is by far one of my favorite. I think it's probably my favorite Trek episode of all time for me. And, because I think it's the very best of genre fiction, because I believe that the very best of science fiction is that story about our human condition. I don't love science fiction I don't love science fiction only because of the space trappings and futuristic thinking. And, but I love it because, for me, that it tells the story about where we are. And I see, and in a way that I can see myself in the future. The heart of it is that heart human story. So I just love that was the focus of that episode so much, that you just let that story breathe and live and let those actors go for it. Which is an incredible statement about you and your craft and how you wield your craft. Sometimes it's to know when to go in with the blunt force, and sometimes to know when it's to go in like a feather, and that's the master who knows those things. So, much love to you for that, for letting that episode be what it is.
Mia, that's very generous of you to say. When I left the show, Rick Berman said, "You just want to go off and freelance director so you can wreck something." Because he knew that I like to do action and all that stuff. And I do. I love it. I want to get out there and do cool shots and have energy and have the camera zipping around and have explosion. We do all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, just as you said to me, if there isn't heart at the center of it, it ain't worth it. So thank you for those sentiments, and I'm with you 100%.
Well, I wanted to ask another question. I mean, I wanted to ask, you've done episodes on all 4 treks. Next Generation, you did Voyager, Enterprise, and Deep Space Nine. So Deep Space Nine is one of those shows that people said at the beginning, oh, you're going to be stuck on the space station and you've got no place to go. It's going to be boring and all this stuff that they said. But getting ready for this show, I watched the beginnings and I watched a lot of the episodes that you had directed. And the thing I got out of your shows is that you made that station feel so big. Like you had so many tracking shots in there where they were walking through that promenade and going up the stairs. They were going into the second deck. And I thought that you made it feel like that station was huge. And is that something that you felt like you had an advantage because you had such big set pieces or such big sets, or as opposed to being on a ship all the time, like in Enterprise, where that was a much smaller, I think it seems like a much smaller stage to me.
You say it looked huge. It was huge. And what a gift to a director to have a multi-level set where you could just move all around and get the actors moving. I abhor having people just sit around and talk when they can be on the move. And that set gave you that opportunity. Herman Zimmerman, when I saw the initial, because I would get the plans ahead of time, and when I saw them, I said, whoa, this is really cool. I don't know if we can afford it, but yeah. And when you finally walk onto the set and see it, it was big. And it was as I said, it was a gift to directors because it just opened up the ability to make the show breathe and to move around and do stuff. So when people say it was locked onto a space station, it was, yes, but to me it has a lot more movement than a lot of the spaceship shows. So from a visual standpoint, I think it offered boundless opportunities for creativity.
Right. I think getting ready for the show, I really was watching the scenes and I said, David just loves, moving that camera around. And you had these ways of people entering the scene where, like the camera would enter the scene like with the person, and then it would switch view like what the person was seeing, like you would swing it all the way around. And I have totally getting into this director thing. I have to watch I have to see more of these scenes.
Sabrina, I think you should have been in the DIT school. I mean, you're ready to go. You're ready to hit the floor.
We agree.
We definitely agree. If you want to start it again, make sure she's your first.
So tell us about going back to DIT school. I mean, Tamia had a question. Go ahead, Tamia.
Oh, well, I mean, I just know, well, I didn't really have a question. I knew that you had thoughts about all these other, with a lot of the Star Trek actors that then subsequently got to direct. And I just knew that you had thoughts about that, Sabrina, about
Are you giving it
episodes.
back to me? Yes. So
Yeah.
I mean, did you produce any of the shows that were directed by the cast members? I know LeVar directed like 28 episodes. I mean, I didn't realize he had directed so many episodes. But were you still working on the show when they were directing as well as a producer, or?
Yeah, I left after the first year of Voyager, which was the seventh season of. Yeah, I think that's right. So yes, I did get to experience the other directors, and it was great to see them. And when an actor directs, you know they're going to deliver the actors,
Mm-hmm.
and that was always great to see them, and how much fun they had stepping out of their roles. So that was great to see. And I mean, I remember Jonathan, the most efficient director I think I ever worked with. He on the lab, there was a day when I got a call from the set, and it was 5:30, around 5:30, and they said, Jonathan just wrapped. Well, the day was supposed to end at 8.
Uh-oh.
Or something like that. And Jonathan comes up to the office, and he's all bouncy and energetic and stuff. And he said, Jonathan, what are you doing? You had an hour and a half more to go, or whatever, to 2.5. And he says, I got everything I wanted. And you watch the episode, and that's true. He was incredibly efficient and delivered it with elegance and grace and humor. His episodes were wonderful, and it parlayed into feature films, the Star Trek feature films, and a career as a major director and doing Picard now. And it was all there in the beginning, where he knew what he wanted. Once he got it, he was ready to move on. The crew loved him, the cast loved him, and he delivered the shows. Special guy.
That's why they call him Two Takes Franks.
Yeah, if that many.
Wow.
He directed my favorite movie was First Contact. So
yeah, he did a
wonderful job.
Terrific job on First Contact. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, directing a movie is got to be a lot different from directing an episode of television, no matter how many you're doing. So that must have been a big step to go from one to the other. I mean, I think Roxanne has done it too. Roxanne Dawson has also directed a film in Frakes. I'm not sure if LeVar has.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big step, but they all put in the work. So kudos to them.
I take my hat off to them, especially because, like, for example, Michael Dorn, who would have to direct, and he's in the scene, and he's in makeup while he's directing.
That's so funny. That is so funny.
It's like, what aren't I doing today? I don't know. I'm doing everything here. But I wanted to ask you about our friend who you recommended that we talk to, Adele. So you worked with Adele about, several years. She was your assistant director when you came on as a director for things, and you had her as a producer.
I love Adele. She is one of the kindest, most compassionate people I've ever known. Equanimity to the max. A mother force for the show, in a strong leadership sense, but nurturing. So I'm a huge fan of Adele, and we spent a lot of years together, and she was a key part of keeping this incredible machine running smoothly and with grace. So
that was one of the big surprise shows we had. I mean, we knew you recommended her, and you introduced us, and he said, could you produce the show? And then she came out with stories that absolutely were incredible. She knew where all the bodies were buried.
She does. I hope she didn't dig up any of mine, but
You're good, David.
You're safe.
I wanted to talk about we were talking about Adele Simmons. We didn't say her last name, but Adele, of course, is on the show known as Aunt Adele. You also have a character on the show, the Lionfish in Picard's Ready Room, Livingston, which I could never remember if Livingston was named on the show, or I think I found out the name was Livingston from the books, from the Star Trek novels. Was it ever mentioned on the show that Livingston, that was the Lionfish's name?
no. The way that it probably became most publicly known is Topps, who makes the trading cards for baseball and football, whatever. They did trading cards for the show.
Right.
Yes,
And-
I have them.
I collect them.
Well, I think I have 3 trading cards. Two of them are me, and one is of Livingston, the fish. and they have a picture of him. I guess he's a him. I don't know.
Right.
Inside the tank, and it has Livingston on the trading card. When I go to conventions, if I have to sign autographs, they'll bring out the trading cards for me to sign, and they're never of me. They're always of the fish.
Of the fish.
I wonder how much they get on eBay for that.
Right?
You know?
A pretty penny.
I gotta find it.
right.
I don't have that card. I'm gonna find it.
But I was it's rather not, it's not really a pleasant thing in my estimation, though, because Herman Zimmerman, the production designer on many series for Star Trek and on feature films as well, was the production designer on The Next Generation. And I was a production manager that time during the budgeting and the first season. And my main job was to say no to everybody so that we could stay on budget. And when you do that, you don't make a lot of friends. So Herman, in honor of my constantly saying no to him and restricting him on his creative pursuits, named the fish, which eats little live goldfish, Livingston, because I was a carnivore, just eating these little other fish.
Right.
It was not a kind. It was not a kind thing.
Backhand compliment.
It was unkind.
Well, you have a
And
starship. Got a starship named after you too, though.
And
Come on.
Jericho got rid of Livingston.
Jellicoe?
Jericho, excuse me. And I like the guy. I really thought he did some real good things, But he got rid of Livingston too. Get the fish out of there
He
too.
sure did get rid of
sure
Livingston.
did.
Yes, he did. That's like
All
when
right,
they
that's
Troy
another
put
thing.
on some clothes. So hey,
Got rid
I
of
like the
Livingston.
guy myself. I thought he was okay.
I don't know now. I don't know.
Yeah, he got rid of Livingston.
Well, the last thing I did want to bring up, and I wanted everybody to know this, is that you are the person that suggested Avery Brooks for that part. And how did that come about?
That's big. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Michael Piller said that in casting for Deep Space Nine that he wanted to consider African American actors for the role of Sisko, for the commander. And I had a couple years prior to that, I had done a movie of the week as a production manager of Uncle Tom's Cabin, which Avery played Uncle Tom. And my memory is seared with his performance in that movie, how incredibly powerful Avery as an actor is, not only as just as a person, but as an actor. The charisma, the power, the passion, the strength, all of that stuff just blew me away when he played Uncle Tom. So I went to Junie Lowry and I said, when we were casting, I said, what about Avery Brooks? And she says, oh, Avery's in the Bahamas on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, so?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, he's on vacation. We can't get him up here. No script. I said, Junie, you're talking about a potential 7-year job for an actor. Are you saying he wouldn't want to read the script on vacation?
Mm-hmm.
She said, yeah, you're right. I'll send him the script. So she sent him the script. He came in, went to network, or we didn't have network. We went to the studio and he got the job.
Oh,
and
wow.
To the incredible benefit of, I cannot think of any other actor who could have played Sisko knowing what Deep Space Nine was at its core.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was the perfect actor and the perfect reflection for what Deep Space Nine was and is. So I am thrilled that he got the job. I am proud that I suggested him. And I think he is and was and is the soul of that show, and that it wouldn't have had the gravitas and the depth
Mhm.
that it has without that psyche of Avery as a person that he infused Sisko with. I remember seeing. This is an actor that is so amazing. I remember seeing during the run of the show, he did his Robeson show at a theater here in LA.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just, to talk about just blown away. Not only what he did as an actor, but singing and the voice of Robeson coming out of Avery.
Him, yeah.
The tragedy of this man in that unbelievable voice that he has. It was magical. So I'm a huge Avery Brooks fan. Huge.
Oh, yeah.
For the listeners who don't know the reference to Robeson, he's talking about Paul Robeson, who's an amazing Black actor turned activist as well.
Yes.
And so open up your history books, Google Paul Robeson, and your life will be changed by knowing who he is, who he was,
Yes.
and what he sacrificed.
Yeah. Because at the kind of light thing at the end of Bada Bing, is it the Boom Bada Bing?
Bada
Yeah,
bing, bada bang.
Thank you. When he and Vic sing,
Mhm.
and he's doing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is like just the complete thing. He can play the piano, he can sing, he can act, and he's fine. So, he had it all. He was just especially when his head got shaved and he got the goatee and everything. I'm like, oh my God, look at this man. I love him.
It took a while to get there, but his look finally reflected who Sisko really was. And it took a little while to convince the producers and studio, whatever. But finally, that look is exactly what Sisko should be. It was great to see that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
After the decision was made, when he shaved and we saw Sisko in his true glory and in his true power, the people who, and you might not be able to answer this question, but I always wonder, the people who were resistant to seeing this on screen, reflected on screen, were they looking at it going, wow, we should have done this a long time ago? Or yeah, like this is it. Like, did they know that they had finally hit on the essence of Sisko, like being reflected?
If they didn't, they were idiots.
Oh, yeah. I think they were idiots for waiting that long to begin with, but I wasn't there. So,
well, I wasn't there either. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's just so clear that if you take an image from the first season and then whenever the change happens, you go, well, which one represents the power of this character? It's a no-brainer.
Yes.
Well, I think we have asked all of our questions. We're coming up to the end, you think? And Tamia, what do you think? Anything else we have, girls? Anything, ladies, sisters?
I don't want to take up any more of your time, although I would, because it's been really fascinating to talk to you and to listen to you. And I swear, I think that there needs to be a show where it's David Livingston and Sabrina Wood talking movies, and I would listen
Oh my
and
God.
watch it.
I would listen to that one.
Long.
You know what?
All day long.
You know what?
You know what?
You send your people and my people. We're going to talk about a show.
We need to do a movie show. You know what? You know what I want to do? I want to do all the Star Trek episodes that are based on movies that have a movie in it. We got the Magnificent Seven. We got the Manchurian Candidate. We got the Godfather. We could find some more.
No doubt.
There's a lot. Yeah. So, I mean, I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of the SyFy Sisters and our listeners. We appreciate your time and, and just sharing yourself with us and your heart. It's wonderful. I've had a really nice time talking to you and listening to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very generous of you. And I'm going to see everybody on the 14th.
Right. Next week. Yes.
Oh,
We'll be back.
So, Sister Yvette, you want to let people know where they can put down their favorite episodes, get in touch with us and let us know their favorite episodes directed by Trek actors or their favorite Mr. Livingston episodes?
You sure can. You can find us at SyFysistas.com. That's SyFysistas.com. You can join us on the mothership. That's MUTHASHIP and the SyFy Sisters Book Club, both on Facebook. Download the Trek Geeks Network app, where you can find us and our family of podcasts on the Trek Geeks Network. On Instagram and TikTok, SyFy.Sisters. And we are also on the Twitter at SyFy Sisters. Become a patron of SyFy Sisters today at patreon.com/SyFy Sisters. After listening to this podcast, please rate us and write a review. We may just read it on an upcoming episode.
And of course, we would be remiss if we did not shout out the baddest engineer in all the universes. That's Dose the Anonymous One, who is responsible for the music you hear on our show. And he's a really, like I said, badass engineer. So if you need production skills or music skills, hit him up, Dose_the_Anonymous_1 on Instagram. Thank you all for listening. Mr. Livingston, I presume you are amazing and you're wonderful, and we thank you. And we love you all. Peace, love, and hair grease.